On March 22, 2026, at exactly 6:49 in the morning, someone moved $1.5 billion into US markets. 15 minutes later, President Trump posted a peace message on Truth Social. Oil dropped 10%, stocks soared, and whoever placed that trade walked away with hundreds of millions of dollars in profit. The mainstream is calling this a market anomaly. I'm calling it what it is: the most visible insider trade in modern geopolitical history, and the single clearest proof yet that the Western financial system is no longer a market. It is a casino with a VIP room that the global south was never invited into. But here is what no one in Western financial media is asking. What does this mean for BRICS power and for the nations quietly building the alternative? Let me break down exactly why this matters. I am Anastasia from Think BRICS. For years, we have been tracking BRICS expansion, energy deals, currency shifts, and global south realignments across YouTube and Substack, so that you don't have to wade through the noise yourself. What we do here is simple. We separate headlines from balance sheets and pipelines because the real story of global power is almost never in the press release. It is in the timestamp, it is in the contract, it is in the ship moving through a strait that most people cannot find on a map. Today, that strait is the Strait of Hormuz, and that timestamp is 6:49 a.m. on a Monday morning when nothing officially was supposed to happen. Let's get into it. Here is the factual reconstruction, as precise as we can make it. February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launch a surprise military assault on Iran. The operation ends with the assassination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Publicly, Western governments had been signaling that diplomatic options were still on the table. But on Polymarket, a prediction platform where users bet real money on real-world outcomes, an account operating under the name MAGA My Man had already placed a winning wager that Khamenei would be removed from power. The bet was settled moments after the strikes became public. Profit: $553,000. Six other suspected insider accounts bought Yes shares on the same contract at 10 cents each. Those shares paid out a full dollar once the explosions hit Tehran. Combined profit from that single day, $1.2 million. Then comes March 22nd, 6:49 a.m. Eastern. No scheduled data releases, no Fed announcements, no earnings, and yet 6,200 Brent and WTI oil contracts are sold simultaneously in a single one-directional bet on falling prices. At the exact same minute, $1.5 billion in S&P 500 futures are purchased. 15 minutes later, Trump posts: oil falls 10% to nearly $84 a barrel. The S&P surges. The portfolio manager described the trade as really abnormal for a Monday morning. That is the most diplomatic understatement I have ever read in a financial report. But here is what mainstream missed. This is not one rough trader with good instincts. This is a pattern. This is a system. And once you see the architecture behind it, you cannot unsee it. Now, step back. What is the real leverage here? The West has done something extraordinary over the past 2 decades. It has financialized geopolitics, transformed every military moment, every ceasefire, every assassination, every diplomatic tweet into a tradable asset. And when geopolitical moments become tradable assets, the incentive to create those moments changes fundamentally. Think about the logic. A threat is issued, oil spikes. Insiders short oil ahead of the peace deal. The peace deal is announced, oil drops, insiders cash out. The threat is issued again 3 weeks later, repeat. Analysts have already given this pattern a name, the taco trade. Trump always chickens out. Threats to drive prices, peace deals to cash in. It is not foreign policy, it is a monetization strategy. And BRICS, specifically Iran, has identified exactly how to exploit this. Iran controls one of the most critical energy choke points on the planet. 17 million barrels of oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. That is roughly 20% of global petroleum liquids. And Iran has now made a very clear offer to vessels moving through that strait: safe passage in exchange for payment in yuan. Let that sit for a moment. This is not a political statement, this is a toll booth. And it is the most elegant piece of geoeconomic engineering I have observed in years. By leveraging physical geography, a strait that the US Navy cannot simply close without triggering a global energy crisis, Iran is forcing a choice on every energy importing nation in Asia, Africa, and the Gulf. Pay in yuan, or explain to your citizens why their energy costs doubled. This is de-dollarization in its most concrete and avoidable form, not a conference declaration, not a Substack think piece, a toll booth in a strait. And it is working. Iran's oil exports have hit record highs, despite the conflict, despite the strikes, despite the assassination of its supreme leader. Because China and India are buying Western sanctions in a multipolar world are simply a list of instructions that the majority of the planet has chosen not to follow. Quick pause. This kind of analysis takes time to build, and it stays independent because of people like you. If you would like to help keep this channel going and support us, you can do so with a super thanks or a free donation. There are links in the description. Like and share the video to reach more people, and subscribe if you are new here. Now, back to the story. So, who really wins from this? The Gulf Cooperation Council, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, has been America's client states for decades. Buy US weapons, price oil in dollars, get protection. That guarantee is now broken. They are watching Jared Kushner's affinity partners, 99% Gulf owned, while US markets get front run by presidential insiders. Riyadh and Abu Dhabi get the message. Your capital funds their profits. Your security gets traded for tweets. This echoes 1973 when Nixon killed dollar gold convertibility. Smart sovereigns built alternatives fast. The rest lost agency. We are at that inflection now. Iran emerges dominant, militarily and as BRICS energy node. What Gulf Cooperation Council was to America, Iran becomes to the multipolar world. With 50 years of distributed infrastructure deep in mountains, airstrikes can touch. The Global South is not making an ideological choice. It is making the 1973 calculation: build your own table before the casino burns. And the consequences of that choice are already compounding. The Hormuz toll booth is converting physical geography into yuan liquidity. Every Asian energy buyer now faces a structural incentive to hold yuan reserves. That is how reserve currency transitions actually happen, not through summits, but through accumulated bilateral necessity. At the same time, US market credibility is collapsing for the institutions that matter most. When SEC Enforcement Director Margaret Ryan resigns rather than prosecute fraud inside the president's circle, the message reaching sovereign wealth funds in Abu Dhabi, Singapore, and Riyadh is precise. Rule of law here is discretionary. Discretionary rule of law is not rule of law, it's rule of the deal. And long-term capital does not park itself inside a casino. It moves toward BRICS infrastructure bonds, yuan contracts, SCO settlement architecture. And the American security guarantee, the foundational logic of Gulf alignment with Washington for 5 decades, loses its deterrent value the moment Arab states understand that US foreign policy is being timed around trader profit windows, not strategic doctrine. Who gains? Iran, as the indispensable energy node of the multipolar bloc. China, quietly locking in yuan-denominated supply while its rivals audit their own corruption. The entire BRICS corridor, from Russia through Central Asia to the Indian Ocean. Who loses? The petrodollar, the fiction of Western market neutrality, and every Global South leader who spent the last decade telling their population the old order was worth defending. The March 22nd timestamp was not an anomaly. It was a confession. The Western financial system revealing in 15 minutes exactly who it serves and who it doesn't. The casino is burning. BRICS is building the exit. The question is not whether this shift is coming. It is whether you will see it before your 15 minutes run out. Thanks for watching.